Okay, everybody, I'm going to give it about 1 more minute and we'll get started. Thanks for hanging in there. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Terrell Boyer. I'm a sales engineer here for Samsung Electronics for the Wireless Enterprise team. I'm sure most of you have probably heard from me or spoken to me at some point. If not, it is a pleasure to meet you via webinar. So the idea of the Lunch and Learn webinars is that you guys can enjoy your lunch while I present to you some new content about our portfolio that you may or may not have seen or had the benefit of learning about. So we've got a few of these webinars scheduled, and you'll be, if you got the notice today, then you should continue to get notices of those webinars. So we'll go ahead and start with the agenda. So today what we're going to cover, I'm going to tell you a little bit about one of our next upcoming webinars. And just for anybody that may not be completely familiar with our wireless LAN solution, I'm going to do a real quick high-level overview of our product portfolio. And then we'll start talking about Wireless Enterprise Manager, which is our network management system for our wireless LAN solution. So we'll start with the system requirements, and then I'll start telling you about give you an example of how you can deploy Wireless Enterprise Manager, and then finally at the end we'll do a walkthrough of the graphical user interface, which is, to me, that's the best part. And then at the very end we'll have some time for some Q&A session. And then all the questions will be logged, so if I don't get the opportunity to answer your question here on the webinar today, then we'll take those questions offline and contact you directly with your email address and everything that you logged in with today to answer those questions back to you. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get started. So upcoming Lunch and Learn webinars. So today we're going to be talking about Wireless Enterprise Manager. We try to do these webinars during the lunch period for most of the time zones. And we try to do it typically on a Tuesday of the week, so we're not hitting you up on Monday when it's your busiest day or Friday as you're trying to wrap up the week. The next one that's coming up is going to be by Ashish Bhatia on September 13th from 12:30 to 1:30. He's going to go talk about Samsung's AirMove technology, which is one of our key differentiating features. So just be on the lookout for your marketing emails from us, and there'll be, I think there's already been sent out some invitations to where you can sign up for that webinar as well. All right, so just real quick to cover what our product portfolio looks like and how Wireless Enterprise Manager plays a role in that. So we have we're a controller-based architecture. We have 2 different models of controllers. One is the SMB on the right-hand side here, which supports up to 200 access points and 1,500 subscribers. And then we have the enterprise level controller here, which will support up to 3,000 access points and up to 20,000 subscribers on a single controller. And then these controllers can be clustered. The SMB can cluster up to 2 to increase the capacity. And then the enterprise controller, you can cluster up to 6 of those together to increase the capacity. The piece that we're going to talk about more in detail today is the piece here at the bottom, which is called Wireless Enterprise Manager. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a lot of historical data, and it's going to give us a lot of cool tool set that we wouldn't have just directly on the controller. And it also gives us the ability to manage multiple devices in a larger deployment under a single pane of glass. And it incorporates some nice troubleshooting tools as well. Again, if you haven't seen our portfolio, this is our lineup of access points. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I just wanted you to be aware of what the portfolio looks like. We have both indoor and outdoor, internal antenna sets, external antenna sets, wireless in, wireless AC access points, mesh access points. So we've got pretty much an access point that we could deploy in any scenario. And then we partner with Ventive to provide our antennas for those access points in any kind of an external access point system. Okay, so as we talk about Wireless Enterprise Manager, what Wireless Enterprise Manager is it's actually a software application that you would receive from us. It's licensed based on the number of devices that you're supporting. So when you go to purchase WIM, really the key thing that you need to know for your licensing structure is how many devices am I going to support with WIM. Once you understand that, then depending on the number of devices that are going to be associated, you can enter into WIM with a low-end server with these configuration settings. But as you get more and more devices associated, it may be beneficial to move into more of a mid to high-end server. So we go ahead and give you 3 configurations here so that you can just kind of make a decision. You know, if you're on the lower end and you're not supporting a whole lot of devices, you can probably get by with a low-end server. But if you know you're kind of reaching the capacity limits of what WIM is capable of, then you would go more with the high-end server. So the WIM software uses a Linux base in the back end. It also uses SQL as the database structure. And then these are some of the other protocols that we'll use as well. Okay, on the next slide here, this is going to talk about the specification for the client device. So basically, WIM is a Java-based application. So once you're get your computer loaded up, you web browse to Wireless Enterprise Manager, and as long as you have these requirements for your client PC, then you shouldn't have any trouble connecting them. Okay, and then here's the capacity table for Wireless Enterprise Manager. So we're compatible with the 8500 and 8050, depending on how many devices you've incorporated in your license. And here are the AP models that we're currently supporting, which are all, pretty much our entire portfolio. And then as we add APs, those will be added to this ability as well. The switches that we support here are listed. This is our entire lineup of PoE switches that we have available. But if you notice here, we also support some basic functionality with some third-party switches like Cisco or something. As long as they manage, have the ability to be managed via SNMP, we can incorporate the statistics and maybe even do some power recess on the ports and stuff like that with Wireless Enterprise Manager. The other thing to point out up here is, so we have a max of 3,000 devices that we can support. In the current version of software, in a future version, we'll probably support more, but at the current time, the max is 3,000 devices. And then WIPs, Wireless Enterprise Security Servers, there's a max of 35 of those. Okay, and so here's a sample network topology of how WIM would be deployed. So basically, WIM, again, is a software application that would load onto a customer-provided server or a server that you may have sold to a particular customer. And then so that particular server would connect into the network. And as long as we had connectivity, and we've got a list of ports to show you what ports we need open to be able to connect to the controllers don't necessarily have to be on the same LAN. They can be remotely connected to, just as long as the WIM server has the ability to talk to them via SNMP. And then there's also some FTP protocol that gets used as well back and forth. So in this example scenario here, you've got WIM loaded on the server here at the top. Then the client machine is logging or is accessing the WIM server via our web interface. And then the WIM is managing 3 controllers here, and it also has an integration with our security product, which is Wireless Enterprise Security, or WES rather. And then, so within the remote networks, we have the ability to manage the controllers as well as the switches and the AP. So all of these devices can be connected back into WIM. Again, the key point is they don't necessarily have to be on the exact same network. We just have to make sure that we have communication with all the necessary ports into these networks to be able to communicate with these devices. Okay, and so now we'll move into the interface, which is the best part for me. So give me 1 second here, and we'll switch that over. Okay, so this is the Wireless Enterprise Manager interface. So this is the page you'll see just after you log in. And the first thing that we pop into here is the dashboard for Wireless Enterprise Manager. So here, these are all widgets that can be moved around depending on what's important to you when you log in. And up here at the top, it's just a very simple interface to go and edit which widgets are available on the screen. And so you have all of these over here to choose from. And then you can create multiple tabs across the top. And so you can group these widgets together, however you would like to see them deployed. You can even use, some of the, maybe even duplicate some of the widgets and just have it broken down by site or something like that. So once you drag those over here to the right-hand side, then they start showing up on the screen, and then you can order, what order they show up on the screen. Here in the with using these buttons, you would just highlight one, and you can move it up or down within the stack. Okay, so we'll go ahead and exit out of there. And then within each of the widgets, what you have the ability to do is you can go in and customize that particular widget to show what you want to show. So for instance, for this particular window, station total count, I'm looking across 2 of my 3 controllers, and I'm looking, I'm looking at controllers. I can also go and change it to look at particular SSIDs if I wanted to do that, or just a particular site if I wanted to look at all the controllers on a particular site. So for this particular case, I went in and selected just these 2 controllers. And how often do I want it to refresh? So, the station total count is not something I need to see every 30 seconds, so let's get that sent out to the max. And cancel that. And so as you can see, within the widgets themselves, you have the ability to kind of quickly zoom in on different time intervals. So right now we're set for 6 hours, so you can see at 6:45 this morning, on this particular server, there were about 6 or 7 clients here associated, and then as we move out through the day, we've kind of peaked around 27 and dropped back down to 25. So you can kind of see hour by hour how the number of clients is increasing. Then over here you can look at it for data usage to see how much data is actually being consumed. So around 10 o'clock, 10:30ish, we were up to 12 megs, and if I look over here, we were around 23 devices that were on the network. So that's a great thing about the dashboard view here, is it gives you a snapshot. It gives you a high-level view of everything that's happening on your network, and you go in and select the individual widgets that you want to have visibility of as you log in, what's important to you. And then you can scroll down, and add if you wanted to put all of them on here at the same time, you can absolutely do that. So moving over here, so if I wanted to add a tab, then I could add just another tab here, and then select which widgets I wanted to put in that other tab as well. Okay. And so after we look at the dashboard, I think the next piece that would be logical to explain is just the overall interface. I'm going to drill down into these a little bit in just a few minutes. But just in general, this kind of interface should look familiar to you if you've logged into our controllers. Because as you know, in our controllers, we have the monitor tab, the configuration tab, and the administrative tab. So these three tabs should be fairly comfortable for you as you've seen these in our controllers, and you understand that the monitor tab is really going to give you just real-time statistics of what's happening. Key difference between the controller and Wireless Enterprise Manager is there's just going to be more data available over a longer period. So we can look to see what's trending over time versus looking at a more immediate snapshot that you would see on the controller. Under the configuration tab, this is where we're going to make configuration changes to APs, APCs, switches, all the connected devices and how they interface. Also, it gives us the ability to incorporate some templates. So if we had a controller template for, we set up, all the new controllers that we added to a particular site the same way, then we could use these controller templates and AP templates to define how we wanted a default controller to look. Under admin, so admin is going to have to do with setting up the alarms. We also have a trouble ticketing system. We have the ability to centrally manage the software deployments from WIM as well. So if you have multiple controllers, we can start with the software deployment here and then have that trickle down to all of the devices that are associated to WIM. Also gives you the ability to centrally manage the licensing as well. So as I move on over here, we've got tools. So it's got a few tools that are built in here. Spectrum Analyzer, which gives us the ability, as you know, with our access points, we have that dedicated sensor antenna built into the access points. And the Spectrum Analyzer is one of the views that we can get from that. So, and I'll show you in a minute as we drill down into these menus a little more detail. But what happens with the Spectrum Analyzer is it'll go and use that sensor antenna and monitor the air around the device for both 802.11 and non-802.11, and it gives us a nice visual display of what's happening around the particular access point. Voice Quality Monitor is going to give us the ability to see SIP traffic, voice over IP traffic that's happening on the network, and then it'll give us statistics as to what the MOS score is and what the jitter delay is and for particular calls. So I can go back and look at a call-by-call feature and see, what was the experience for the people that were on that particular call. So you see this feature also in our controllers, and the difference between the controller version and this version, again, is going to be how much of a history that you can see. And then packet capture is simply the ability to do a Wireshark trace directly from a particular controller or a particular access point. And then general, so the general tab is going to be all about this particular server, whether or not we want to do a database backup and restore. And then these are statuses of the server as far as how the server is performing, how the memory is being used, to just kind of give us a real-time view of what's going on that particular server. And then security, this is kind of a nice feature because I can go in and see if I give people access to WIM, then one of the things I want to be able to see is what are they doing, what are they touching, what are they changing, especially if I'm a senior administrator on the system and I've got some junior guys that are working for me to do maintenance. Something goes wrong, then I can quickly log in and look at this operation history to see who was logged in last and what they changed. So that's very helpful. And then help is pretty straightforward. So you got about WIM, which is going to give you the software version. Then I'll show you this notice feature here in a little bit as well. But this is a really cool way to communicate with other people that may be maintaining the same server. You can use it just like a maintenance log. Okay, and So that's it, and then over here on the left you've got your log in and log out. And then if you want to see, you don't want to have to drill down on all of the menus, so wait for the application to pop down. Then you've got this all menu option over here where you can display the entire menu and just find which option that you're looking for and just click on that particular option. Okay. So at this point, we'll start drilling down into the particular menus. One thing I'll show you at the end to kind of keep in mind is when I create a user ID for Wireless Enterprise Manager, I don't necessarily have to give somebody visibility of every single device on the network. So at the very end, what we'll show you is I'll show you how you can create a user ID, and then based on how this network tree is set up, we can give them access to different tiers. So it could be a particular controller, or it can be a particular grouping or a particular site. So basically we can associate the user ID with a different tier here in the connection tree, and they would only have visibility of everything on that level or below that level. So I'll show you more about that here in just a few minutes as well. Okay. That is an important piece to point out. So as you get Wireless Enterprise Manager configured and set up, then the first place that you're going to go into when you get into when you log in to start adding devices is you will basically start with creating the WIM server here, this RDB here. Then you can add a site. So the Samsung is going to be our site here. And then you have groupings that you can add, and then within the groupings you add the individual devices. And so it's just a simple right click, and you can add a controller or add a PoE device, and you've got some other options here, so surveillance and security and so forth. So this is the main window. I know when I sat down at WIM the first time, that was kind of took me a minute to find this little icon up here. But you know me, I'm a typical guy. I don't read the instructions. I just sit down and try to start figuring it out. So, but yeah, that's the one icon that's very important to make note of. So as we go through, one of the other things that I'll point out as we go through these menus is there's a lot of ability to drill down from the current page that you're on. And I find that very beneficial if you're looking for a particular problem, client device, or trying to isolate a problem on the network, because you don't have to keep dropping, coming out to the main menu to go back into something else. It gives you the ability to click hyperlinks and basically drill down further and further and further to get more details. So that's a key benefit. Alarms are pretty straightforward. All the alarms from all the systems get brought into Wireless Enterprise Manager. You can actually have those alarms scroll across the bottom here as they come in. And you can set up different, when we get over here to admin, I'll talk to you about some of the different options we have that we can do with those alarms. Under APC and switch, the first thing you're going to see here is a list of all the devices that are connected into WIM as far as AP and switch. And so you get a heads-up display that's going to show you, how many access points are associated to a particular controller. And then you also have the number of stations that are associated to, to that particular controller as well. So if you notice here how these are highlighted blue here at the bottom, that means that I can click on those and drill down into what's actually happening. So let's take the 8050 controller here. And so this is probably a view that's kind of familiar to you as well. This is similar to what you would see if you logged directly into the controller. So you have, here you have the ability to see what software version you're on, what interfaces are up, auto negotiations enabled, how the CPU is performing on that particular controller, what's been happening over time. So now, just from that page, if you have multiple controllers deployed, you can start popping into different controllers to see what's happening with each controller individually. If you've got it set up as a DHCP server, You can see if you're handing out addresses properly, what's the lease duration, what's the lease time, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we'll go back here. Okay, so back on this page, so that's so by clicking on the controller name itself, you're able to drill down into the controller. So if I scroll over here to the right, if I click on the AP count, then this is going to bring up the AP preview window. And so now I'm looking at all the APs, and it's automatically put a filter in for me on the list of APs. For which controllers, we have the options of looking at. And if I want to look at just APs that are up versus down, I can just uncheck the down and set that. And now I'm starting to filter down on particular APs. And again, so I've already hopped in one level, so now I've got more links that I can click on to drill down a little bit further. And so here also I'll discuss this in a little bit, but these are like map locations. So we have the ability to load in floor plans and do like a real-time heat map. And so by clicking on this link, it would take me to directly to that heat map. So I'll show you kind of an example of this. Okay, so it's going to move to another window. Okay, let's try that one more time. I think because I've been practicing all morning that I may have filled the memory buffer in my browser, so let's try. I'm going to go monitor. That was under APC and switch. And then we'll drill down over here on a particular AP count. Okay, and then we'll filter down to the APs that are actually up. And then we'll drill into a particular heat map. There we go. Okay. So it looks like it just automatically reset my browser for me, which I thought that was kind of beneficial. So here we go. So here's the real-time heat map. So now I have visibility of where these actual APs are. And if I click on these APs, then it'll actually let me drill down into the profile of those particular APs. Keep in mind this is a demo system, so there may not be a whole lot of activity on it for the APs that we have visibility of. And I'll go into this piece here in another section, so I don't want to drift too far from where we were. Then the next piece over here, after we look at the individual APs, then we also have the ability to look at station counts. So when I click on that, then that's obviously going to bring up a list of stations that are connected to the AP. And up here again, I have the familiar filter icon, so I can go in and pick out a particular controller, which is what it's done. Since I was in the controller menu and then I jumped to the stations, it's only showing me stations associated to that particular controller. And again, so this is the station count, so I've got another icon here that's available that I can click on, and it'll drill down and show me particular information about that station. And if I click on these links here down the center column, this will show me information about that AP. So that's where the ease of troubleshooting comes in. It allows you to quickly move through and kind of drill down on exactly what you're looking for. Here it's going to show, based on the filter set that's set up here, it'll show me what kind of traffic these stations are using, and then what's the lowest data rate that they're communicating at. So typically, unless you disable it, everything communicates at the 1 meg rate. But if we disable those lower data rates, then you'll start to see those numbers distribute up the ladder here. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of what under monitor and APC switch looks like. APs is going to be, again, this is going to be the this will be the full list of every AP that's associated, and then we have that filter icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. And this is, we can uncheck or check these and start to get a smaller view of what's happening on across all the WLAN servers. So right now it looks like we have visibility of 91, but if I run a filter to see how many of those 91 are actually connected to the system, that number will drop drastically to 32. Well, not too drastically, but so anyway, so quickly able to filter down and start to see, what the status is, what Ethernet speed they're connected at. Like some of these I can see are connected to 100 base T ports. Some of these are connected to gig ports. What channel number they're using, and how many stations are associated to each of the APs. And then here is, over here, this is kind of a cool feature. Now, if I've got a particular area of the building that I'm having trouble with and I want to run a spectrum analysis, then I have the ability to do that in this far right column here. And I'm going to drag that over just a little bit. And so let's take this particular AP here, and we'll run the spectrum analysis screen. Okay. And so now I've got this window popped up, and it's asking me to pick out which particular AP. I can change the AP by clicking on this target window here, and it brings up the site tree that I was showing you earlier. And then once I've found the one that I want, I just hit search, and that pops it up over here as the target node. And then I would click set here. And then I can go in and set some different parameters. The most important of these for spectrum analysis is what channels do I want to monitor. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the 2.4 gigahertz, and we'll run that. And so now, at a completely remote site, I'm sitting in my office, and I'm able to run a full spectrum analysis for both 802.11 and non-802.11 devices. And I can see how the channels are being used. So for instance, this on channels 6 and 11 here are being highly used, so these channels are 100% saturated right now. So if I were going to put a new device in 2.4 gigahertz, then chances are I'd put it in, off of channel 1 here. So it gives you that visibility, and you can let that run, and it'll trend out over time. But just clicking a simple link, I was able to get all the way into that access point, and now I'm getting real-time visibility of what's happening. We can go ahead and take a look at like the 5 gigahertz spectrum just by switching that radio button. Then hit save here. And so here, definitely a lot more room available in the 5 gigahertz spectrum. So we've got all these channels that aren't seeing hardly any traffic, and we've got 15% usage or duty cycle on channel 40 here. So just another nice tool to have. There are other ways to get to the spectrum analysis, but what I found is this is probably the easiest one because you know which AP that you're logging into. And if you've got it on a map here, then you can kind of look and see exactly where that AP is located. and then just run that directly from there. Okay, keeping on down the menu here, we are going to, so we've done AP, we've done station, so we'll take a look at report. So report gives you the ability to basically look at any set of parameters that's happening in your network. And you can have these reports, you can look at a report real time just by setting the parameters, or you can have the reports emailed to you, or you can download them in a PDF type format or a CSV file. So let's take a look at an example of one. So we'll do a station report. We'll call this a sample report. And so busiest station by site. So let's go ahead and we'll say all sites within the last hour. And we're not going to schedule it, but if I did want to schedule it, we do have the scheduling ability here. We can have that delivered as a CSV, PDF, or HTML. And we can either have it, destination as a file, like to a file server, or have it emailed out. So if you wanted to see what the busiest station was every day, then you could select email here and have that report emailed out to you every day at a particular time. So we'll go ahead and go back up to the site list. We have that selected. And we'll go ahead and run that now. Yes, I would like to run. And we're going to go to HTML, click OK. And then it's going to pop up. So within the last hour, it's giving me the MAC address, and I can customize which fields I have the visibility of seeing here. It's giving me MAC address and IP address of the device and the amount of data that they downloaded within the last hour. So you've got one device here that's downloaded over 964 megs in the last hour. So all kinds of different reports that you can drill down and look at, network quality, AP specific reports, and then have those emailed off to you as well. So here's the RF map. So this starts basically with your map view tree here on the left-hand side, and it'll list all the connected devices, how many AP stations, so you get that view here. And then as you drill down, you can load in like maps so that you can see physically where these buildings are located. So this is the main office that I work out of in Richardson, Texas, and then we have an office across the street. And for demo purposes, we have floor plans loaded in both of these. So now I can drill into a particular office. So let's go ahead and say we'll take Creek View as an office. And within the Creek View office building, now I can go in and look at particular floors. We only have the second floor plan loaded in here. And just a quick double click on that, and it'll bring up the real-time heat map to show me what's actually happening in that building. If they were stations associated, these numbers in the center that say 0 would have the number of AP counts that are the number of station devices that are associated to these particular APs. And then again, by clicking on the AP, it would take me to the AP detail page so that I could see all the statistics about that particular access point. On this map view tree over here, I have the option of enabling different things. So if I wanted to see interference that was being detected, I could check that box off. And as it runs its scans, then any interference, like earlier I was seeing microwave oven around the breakfast hours that were showing up as an interference. I was seeing Bluetooth devices that were showing up as interference devices. So yeah, there they come. So we've got Bluetooth devices where they're detected as interference. There's some microwave ovens. I know this is a break room here, and so it's detecting the microwave ovens. This is accurate within to about 3 meters accuracy on this. The other thing I can do is station tracking, so I can see where individual stations are. So if I'm looking for a particular MAC address, I can just highlight that particular station. Let's do an auto refresh and see where that station is. And then if we had rogue access points or rogue stations identified, those would pop up here. I was seeing a rogue station pop up earlier, so that's a station that we've blacklisted for whatever reason, but I'm not seeing that anymore. I guess they gave up. So the other thing that I have the ability to see here is I can generate more data. So right now you're just seeing the name of the access point, but I can also turn on different views so that I can see the MAC addresses, filters, what's the transmit power of the APs, what channel are they using, how saturated is that particular channel, air quality, controller AP, alarms. So whatever is visible, that I want to have seen, I can take a look at this. The other thing that's kind of important to point out is if I was in like a network operations center, and it was my job to monitor, a series of Samsung controllers across multiple, multiple offices or something, like as a managed delivery. The one thing I can do is I can drag these. I can't really demo it very well in the webinar, but I can drag these over to different monitors. So if I had 3 or 4 monitors set up, I can have different views happening real time on different monitors. You kind of see that in the display here. That they've got 3 different displays set up, so they're monitoring 3 different pages of analytics at the same time. So for like a network operations center, that would work out really well. Okay, so we'll keep on moving down. Let's see how we're doing on time. Looks like we've got about 15 more minutes. I need to speed it up just a little bit. So we have the RF map, the topology view. This is once you get all your devices added to Wireless Enterprise Manager, then you can organize them in a network topology. And then if you have different degrees of depth that you can look at. So if I have all the APs labeled off of particular switch ports, then I can even drill down a little further to see which AP is associated to which switch ports on the actual controller itself. And keep on moving down the list here. So we've got topology, security. Let's pop in there for just a second. So security is going to give me mostly what you see. I mean, you'll see some rogue access points and stuff if they happen to pop up, but it gives you the ability to search for particular. You still have the option of drilling down on particular sites, or you can look at a site or a particular group of devices. And then once you've selected that, then you can run the interfer or run this, and it'll detect different types of interference, whether it's rogue access points, and it'll update that in whatever interval you set here. So you can see here that across all of our access points deployed across all of our controllers, these are the interference devices that are being detected. And notice again how we have the ability to drill down immediately into that particular section. So if I looked here, there was one here that caught my attention earlier, narrowband jammer. If we had this AP mapped on a map location, then we would be able to, I'd click on that and it would show me, on the map where that particular narrowband jammer is being detected. It's giving me the RSSI value of -35, so it's fairly strong. But given that we do a lot of RF testing in our facilities, I'm not completely surprised to see something like this. But some of the other devices, we're detecting Bluetooth devices, Xbox controllers. So I can assume that these are installed in somebody's house for demo purposes. Okay, so that's under the security access point. I forgot to mention one thing back here under RF map that I wanted to show you guys real quick. So I'm going to jump back in here to Creek View, and we'll do Lookout, and we'll do first floor. The ability to modify this is fairly straightforward. So clicking on the modify link, it gives you the ability, it brings up these icons over here. And so if you've worked in like an EchoHow or an air magnet tool, then this is kind of going to be intuitive for you. So here you can just modify the details of the floor info. If I want to add an AP, then I would just click, and it's going to go ahead and look at the particular, give me a list of controllers, and I figure out which AP that I want to add, and it puts it in a little box over here, and then I can select it and drag it onto the map where that AP is physically located. The background image is going to be basically just going to be the floor plan map, and then I would set the scale is very important as well. So very, very straightforward on how to basically load in these maps and move the APs around and get those set up as well. So we'll go ahead and jump out of this. Once you're done modifying the map, then you would just hit save and then go back into execute mode, and then that brings everything back online for real-time monitoring. Okay. So we'll go ahead and drop out of that. Moving on down, so we've done topology, WIPs we don't have set up, deep packet inspection. So this gives me the ability to look at analytics to see how, what type of applications are being used. So this is also available in our controllers. This is just going to give us a broader view. So I can not only just look at one controller, but I can look at multiple controllers at the same time. So for instance, I can see over the last week that SIP audio has been our biggest usage of data. And then below that, we've got HTTPS, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and HTTP. But if you see here, the way that we're using our networks in the lab is mostly for our fixed mobile convergent client, so WeVoIP, and so basically it's detecting that kind of SIP audio and also like our wireless IP phones and so forth. So those devices are connected to our access points, and we're registering that application and then showing you how much data is actually being consumed here. Up here in the top left-hand corner, you have the ability to look through, to drill down on this. Basically, this is a summary view. Excuse me. We can drill down by wireless LAN, so a particular wireless LAN and different devices. So whatever the device type is, so we'll broaden this filter out. So Android, Windows 10, Apple, so we can go and look and see what applications are being used by those particular types of devices. Particular users, if they're registered users, or by MAC address, and then applications as well. So a lot that we can drill down on. And as you know, within our controllers, once we identify a particular application that may be consuming too much bandwidth, so for instance, we saw Facebook up there. I can go in now and write a policy that basically says you can use Facebook, but we're only going to let you use it to a certain amount of, the total bandwidth that's available. So a lot of flexibility there. And we're going to keep moving down here. So we've got deep packet inspection. So that was that for the monitor. And again, monitor on WIM is just going to be just like it is in our controller. It's just going to give you those real-time visibility of what's happening on the controller at this time. And then it gives you the ability to broaden or drill down a little bit further. Okay, moving over to configuration. So this is a really cool section. I'm not going to cover all of this in detail. We'll just cover the APC switch section. But configuration gives you the ability to build mobility groups so that you can do roaming between the controllers. And it actually gives you the ability to build in some templates as well. So if you have a particular template you want to push down to the controller, for a brand new addition to the network, you can do that. Same with the APs. And then interfere detectors as well. So under configuration, though, now this is where the simplicity of management for multiple controllers deployed in the network comes in. So it brings up our list of controllers again. But this time when we click on a particular controller, so we'll take this one for example, you'll notice that it brings up the menus that we're familiar with, and you've got a lot of editable fields here. So this gives you the ability, basically, if you remember in the controller, these menu selections are vertically along the left-hand side, and then these top menu selections here are the ones that go across the top. So these are your main menus here, and then these are going to be your sub-menus. So now, I've got one single pane of glass, one set of credentials that I've used to log in, and now I have, the ability to manage multiple controllers, at the same time. So I can go in and, change the wireless LAN settings, go in and change, AP group settings, all from this one web-enabled device. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and move over to admin. So again, alarm settings. This is where you can set up, which alarms are most critical by grade, by alarm code. What do you want? Do you want them to be visible? So you can have visible turned on for so that they pop up down here on the bottom. And then you have also audible, so that it'll actually play a file to let you know that, hey, that an alarm's been triggered. These tools, again, are especially useful if you've got like a knock situation happening where somebody's, monitoring the devices real time, all the time. It's a managed service. Okay. Moving over here, so we've done alarm settings, alarm controls. So again, going in and just kind of filtering down on which alarm IDs, what critical level they are, and then you can go through and filter on major, minor, and critical, and so forth. So trouble ticketing is kind of a cool feature as well. So based on different types of alarms that are created, what you can do is you can have the actual WLAN system send an email to a ticketing system. So for instance, at our technical assistance center, we receive service requests or requests for support via email. And so this could be one of those emails coming in. Basically, so if an alarm is experienced, maybe it's a controller down or an AP down or whichever alarm you think is critical enough that it needs to send out an email, you configure that information in here, and basically an email would get created and sent to that ticketing system to open up a particular ticket. And then here under ticketing history, you'd have the ability to see if that email actually went out and when it was sent and so forth. Okay, and got about 8 minutes left. So we're going to go, so trouble ticketing, so software. Sorry, this is another key benefit of Wireless Enterprise Manager. Software gives us the ability, we can load in packages. So instead of having to go out and upload packages to each of the individual controllers, we can load in packages here into the software application and then push those software upgrades out to the remote controllers. So basically software management across multiple controllers. The same with licensing. This is another beneficial feature that you can look at multiple controllers and see how many APs they're licensed for. You can even apply and remove new licenses here, and tells you what's enabled. So for instance, we've got one controller here that's enabled for voice quality monitor, and another controller here that has both firewall and controller enabled. So you have the ability to add licenses here, you can remove licenses here, and so forth. So some cool features under admin, keep going down, user-defined alarm. So this gives you the ability to kind of look at different data points and create your own custom alarms, and then you have the ability to set it as a notification, or you can have an email sent out on those user-defined alarms as well. Tools, so we've already kind of looked at the spectrum analyzer. Packet capture, again, is just going to give you the ability to log in, basically to log into a particular access point or a particular controller, and you'll be able to stream those packets into like a Wireshark application. so that you can do a deep, like a packet analysis for whatever problem you're trying to troubleshoot. Makes it handy to be able to do this centralized because you don't have to actually go to site and you don't have to physically interface with that particular site. It just gives you the ability to do it here from a centralized point. And then voice quality monitor, we'll pop in there. I don't think we have any data to look at, but I'll kind of show you the fields. Voice quality monitor is going to give us, you can do real-time monitoring of what's happening with voice calls on the network. You can look at statistics to see if there's any kind of problems that are happening. What the loss score is over X amount of calls. So if you start to see this number drop, then that's a sign that you may need to dig into something. And then on history, you can actually pull up in the history version. You can actually pull up most 100 calls and look at call details. And you can kind of see that the reports are filling in here that we're able to see, what the jitter was for that particular call. So think about it in this scenario. If you deployed both our wireless solution and our PBX solution with our wireless IP key set, and your customer called and said, hey, I'm getting poor quality over the IP phones that you've deployed, then this tool would help you go in and start to look at, okay, where are you getting the poor quality, and it gives you the visibility of being able to see that real time. So instead of having to have the customer tell you, oh, was it on the transmit side or the receive side, trying to figure out if it's upload or download, we're capturing and monitoring all that for you real time if this particular feature is enabled. Okay, so that's our tools at a high level overview. General, again, is just going to be the different things that are happening on the particular server. I want to jump over here real quick to security because I think this is an important feature, especially if you have multiple administrators. It gives you the ability to see, so you can see that I'm logged in here today, and I can log across multiple, basically as I'm logged in, as I click on things, these messages are get this data, get this, get this. So it shows, case by case what I'm doing, what IP address I did it from. It's got, the time and date stamps that I did it. So again, if you've got multiple people that are managing the system, then this gives you the ability to go in and see what the last person did or what the last changes were that were made. We use this for evaluations, so we can create user IDs off of this server and give potential partners or partners access. And if for some reason they make a change that impacts the service, then it gives us the ability to go see who did it and what they changed. So very cool feature here. And then just a little bit more proactive, we have the ability here, it's kind of a virtual maintenance log, if you will. So it doesn't have to be a maintenance log. I mean, it's basically just a way to leave notes for each other on the server. But working in an environment where I've multiple people are always in and out of the same systems, you could put a policy that says, hey, if you make a change on anything, just go in here and make a note of it, and that way that log is stored right here on the server, so you can pop in and see, okay, T-Warrior was in here and did something on August the 30th at 12:12, and this is the details of what he did. So again, if something happens, then you have the ability to backtrack and see what happens there. Okay, I've got, so let's take a look. That kind of concludes the high-level overview of the Wireless Enterprise Manager. Sorry, I got a bit rushed here at the end. The thing I would say is if you have more questions, don't let this be the end of the conversation. The idea behind these Lunch and Learn webinars is to kind of create an awareness of the products that we do have and the capability that we do have. So reach out to your distributor, reach out to your sales architects, to your sources of information for these products. And ultimately, if you want to go into further details, feel free to send us questions as well. We're happy to talk about this all day long. Let's take a look at a few of the questions that have come in here real time. We've got just a couple of minutes. So what is a station a WAP? Yes. So I think that's is a station a WAP. So WAP is wireless access point. Sorry guys, I forget a lot of times we speak in acronyms, but yes. So I take that back. If I read that question again, station is not a WAP. WAP is wireless access point. A station is a client device that would be associated to an access point. So typically you'll hear it as stations or clients or subscribers to the network. And then you may hear WAP, WAP, wireless access point, or AP used interchangeably. Let's see. The other question I have here is, will WIM work on a virtual controller? From what I understand is yes, that it will work, but it's not recommended because of the amount of communication that that is going on with all the different controllers. It's recommended to be on a dedicated server. Will WIM work with non-Samsung switches? The answer there is yes again. We do have some capabilities as long as the particular switch will use SNMP. And then we have the ability to add it into WIM, and we can manage that. So if your customers have an existing infrastructure, then we can bring those devices into WIM as well to give you some. It gives you mostly statistics on uptime, downtime, port usage statistics, and with some of the switches, we'll have the ability. We can go in and reset a particular port and so forth. Do you ever have to administer through the individual controllers? I'm going to say the answer to that is probably going to be yes. I think WIM for high-level changes is going to, for day-to-day administration, you're probably going to get, about 90% of it done through WIM. However, if you needed to do some, more detailed troubleshooting, our controllers have both the GUI aspect and the CLI aspect, and available through the CLI aspect are more detailed troubleshooting tools, like the ability to do station logs to see if a station's having trouble authenticating, for example. We can go in and look and see line by line what's happening during that authentication process. So if you're getting down to that level of troubleshooting, then you're probably going to have to jump over to the controller. But for, I would say 90% of your day-to-day move adds and changes, you can probably comfortably do that through WIM. Does the WIM work with PBX telephony switches? So no, you can't maintain the PBX switches within the Wireless Enterprise Manager. Wireless Enterprise Manager is going to be limited to like PoE switches, Ethernet switches, access points, the access point controller. Sorry, this is a kind of a lengthy question. Okay, I'll have to get back to that one. All right, guys, I'm over time at this point, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to stop now. Go ahead and submit your questions. This webinar has also been recorded, so we'll push out some notifications to you about where to download and view that recording again if you missed something, or if you want to share that with anybody that might be interested. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your lunch period today to hear me ramble on about a product that we're very proud of, which is our Wireless Enterprise Manager. Thanks a lot, guys, for your attention, and look forward to talking with you.